Out of every dollar ever printed, 33% of them were printed in the last 3 years. I think by the end of my life, houses on Bayshore are going to be 60, 80 million. I think a starter home is going to be $1.5 million. Look at Los Angeles. There's other markets around the country that already have those numbers.
Yeah, you just have to adapt. I mean, Tampa's never going to be what it was 20 years ago. You can't just dwell in the past about that.
The first thing we wanted to talk about was hedge funds buying homes. A lot of these big corporations buying single-family homes, super hot topic right now. It's happening here in Florida. It's happening across the country. We want to hear from you guys what you think about it. Let me see, Tampa. But we also want to say, you know, this is something that's going to really come to a head here in Congress in the next probably few years. Like now legislation is being pushed to stop these hedge funds from buying single family homes. A lot of the comments on that post say, you know, well, what are you going to do? Not let investors buy single family homes? No. I think if you're an investor, you should be able to create a portfolio for yourself and your family. That's always been a part of the American dream, is property ownership. But when you have a huge corporation spending billions of dollars on single family homes, it completely undercuts the American dream. It's extremely hard to buy a home if you're competing with a hedge fund. A lot different from a mom and pop investor who owns 10 rental properties. So let me see if I can get the chat pulled up. Okay, I see the test. Testing is good. All right, we're live. We're officially live. Post in the chat. We will be able to see whatever you guys are talking about. And then can we pull up the comment page on the screen share on the Blackstone post? So we put up a post. I was describing how Blackstone bought a listing of mine. And what they do is they create an LLC. They partner with a local realtor, a local representative, and then that representative goes out and puts offers on properties. That's what they did in my case. And this was also disclosure, right? This was like, I think 2 or 3 years ago. This was a few years ago. It's a lot more prevalent now. It's a lot more known now. But at the time when I got the offer, I really didn't know much about it. So it was shocking for me to discuss that with the seller. You know, and from a seller's perspective, a lot of people were saying on the comments stuff like, well, why would that seller sell to Blackstone? Why wouldn't they sell to a family or another buyer? It's hard to tell that to a seller. A seller essentially wants the most amount of money they can get for their property. They're not going to take a haircut just to sell it to some random individual. You see that sometimes where a buyer writes like a nice love note to the seller and says, hey, we're a new family. We want to buy this house. And sometimes that can pull weight. But generally the seller wants the most money they can get for their home.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so this was the post here. Is that as big as it gets? Man, we're having all kinds of issues today with this chat box. Blackstone right there. Yeah, what are some of the top comments? All right, here we go. Now, something extremely interesting. Not a Stop commented, as a renter, I can say living in a Blackstone house has been one of the best experiences I've dealt with in a lifetime. In a world of deadbeat landlords who won't fix things that go wrong with the house. In 4 years, I have lived in one of their homes. They have replaced everything except the air conditioner. All of this after just one phone call. If the sink breaks, they're here the next day to fix it. The toilet, refrigerator, hot water. I've never had an issue with these people.
Super interesting.
Very interesting, because that's the case for it.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a huge corporation that owns a bunch of rental property, rest assured if you're dealing with a large corporation with money that, you know, they're probably going to fix their issues or else they'd be out of business.
Right.
Whereas maybe if it's like a mom and pop landlord and that family or that individual owns like 10 homes, they can slack, they can try to cut corners. Not that corporations don't cut corners, but that's a case for it, right? There's definitely two sides of the coin. Mm-hmm. A lot of people commenting said it should be illegal. I somewhat agree with that. I think there's a middle ground here. A lot of people saying it's predatory. It's destructive to obviously people living out the American dream and buying a home, which I think is true.
I agree with.
What do you think, man? You're a young dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with that, being young, and already there's an affordability gap that kids my age are not going to be able to purchase anytime soon for the next 10 years. It's pretty wild to see what's already a struggle is going to become more of a struggle because there's big institutions coming in and taking out the supply.
Yeah.
They're just nitpicking. It's almost like hungry hippos.
Yeah.
And, you know, not being able to compete with the big hippos that are got the bigger mouths and they're scooping up all the balls. It's kind of unfair.
Their terms are better than yours too, right?
Exactly.
They have cash. They can close quick. They've got a renter in the pipeline ready to roll.
Right. Like,
how are you ever going to compete?
Right. If I have lined up FHA financing and these guys have straight cash offer, like above asking, it's difficult. It's a difficult situation because how are you going to regulate that?
I think this was in 2019 or 2020, and I remember it was full price. Maybe it was like full price plus 5,000, but it was cash and it was closed in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't a seller take that?
Right.
You know, they're probably not going to feel bad for you if they're going to risk you not closing the deal.
And a real estate agent is going to disclose to them that this FHA, I mean, what I've heard in the past being a real estate agent myself is, you know, obviously FHA and VA is a lot more difficult to get approved than a straight cash offer. If you get a straight cash offer, you're going to disclose to your seller that, hey, you know, they can close 2 weeks. They're not going to have any financing contingencies. You're not going to be affected by that. You know, it's
cash
a pretty
is king.
it's a straightforward shot. Then it comes down to like, a few comments have been saying is, you know, us as sellers have to, you know, we're the ones that need to tell them no and come together and make sure that doesn't happen because the government hasn't stepped in at this point.
Yeah, a lot of people blame the seller, but you can't blame the seller. Like the seller is trying to sell their home.
Everybody's situation is different.
Everyone's situation is different. I understand if it's like a super rich dude, he owns 500 homes and he wants to sell one to a family. Yeah, but most sellers are just the family or the individual that's owned the home for a few years, and that's their livelihood, man.
Right.
Like their house is their biggest asset. And when they go to sell that house, they're going to want as much money as they can get.
Exactly.
You know, at the end of the day, it's not the seller's responsibility to save the world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right.
And
or the agent to change that seller's mind. It's not his position or him or her position either.
That's a great point, man. Like the agent certainly shouldn't be blamed.
No.
You know, a lot of people were blaming me, right? A lot of people are saying, well, as an agent, you know, you should try to figure out a way to sell to an individual. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility is just to facilitate the transaction and to guide the seller and or the buyer, whoever I represent, in the best way possible.
That's out of our role as real estate agents.
It's literally not in our job description to make a decision for someone.
No, that's almost like an organized group coming together to protest against institutions, which is, you know, that's completely out of our job description.
Completely, man. It's not our job to save the world. So the good news is the government's stepping in. I think a lot of people that are pissed off are going to get what they want. This might pop up in the election cycle too. I don't know if they're going to even do debates this year, but I know if they do, this is going to be a big subject. What else are people saying? Another thing people said was, and for some reason this has come up like in the last, I think when did we post this, like 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, a while ago.
Whatever, like a month ago. A lot of people are like, oh, it's BlackRock. It's BlackRock. No, it's Blackstone. Blackstone is the company. They bought Home Partners of America. Blackstone has spent billions of dollars trying to purchase single family homes, and they've done it through buying other companies. As a native Floridian, we have transplants moving here. I think people's point is this really exacerbates the issue that we already have. I mean, I know the whole nation is going through a little bit of a real estate crisis, but especially in Florida, you know, we have a multiple pronged issue. We have insanely high insurance costs, flood insurance, that's a big issue. Right. Condominiums are on the hot seat right now for all the shit that they're going through. Required engineering reports, required reserves, like older condominiums, you know, going bad and having to have renovations, HOA fees, plus debt. Debt's extremely expensive. Property taxes. It's very, very hard to purchase a home. It's not affordable right now. Adding on top of that, you have a hedge fund who's competing with you. Right. So people are just saying like this is essentially exacerbating an already screwed up housing market.
It's important to point out too, this didn't just start happening. It's been happening for years. But I think what's happening now is people are starting to feel the constraints and they're trying to put it on something, put it on someone. And there's been a few, I mean, this post is one example. There's been a few things in the media out there that are kind of rallying people together against this motion of like, this should be illegal and trying to fight it. which is great. But I think the reason that's why it's happening now and not 5 years ago when it was happening then, right? Is because, people are really feeling it right now, and they're like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
against everything else that we have going on, high interest rates, we have companies coming in, institutions coming in and purchasing all these homes that we can't now afford.
Yeah, it didn't matter when there's a bunch of inventory and properties are trading, and every second of every day there's a new beautiful house on the market, and there's cash buyers and interest rates are low and the environment's good. But when you do have a shift, someone wants to point the finger at the bad guy, and the bad guy in this case is the hedge fund.
Yep.
So I think that's why this issue is being pressed to the forefront. Scroll down. What else do we have? You will own nothing and be happy. Another thing is a lot of people are referencing, I think that was like Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum guy. Yeah. It's been put out into the environment that the WEF, the globalists, as they say, those people want to create a renter world, right? Because if they own all the property, people won't have a choice but to rent. And then you have a cash flowing asset. Maybe that wasn't the case 50 years ago. 50 years ago, a home was something that every family aspired to buy. Mm-hmm. In the future, these globalists don't want that to happen. They have an agenda. They want to create multi-billion-dollar portfolios for assets, for cash flowing assets, and people are pointing that out, which is interesting because you would imagine that's like conspiracy level type shit, but in a weird way, with the migration Florida has had, with all these people moving to Florida and the way the debt market is, it's almost like it's happening right in front of our face. Like, I'm looking for a home right now. I can't find a fucking home.
Yeah.
I can't find a home, and any home I do find, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, the cost to buy a home right now is so astronomical.
Yeah.
It is insane. Prices are up, interest rates are up, insurance is up. Everything about owning a home, construction costs are way up. They've come down a little bit since COVID, but they're still up. It's very, very expensive.
I think it's a way of the market telling us that we've hit a reach, like we've hit the top of what is possible.
Yeah.
You can't just have, 2020, 2021, 2022 crazy freaking years. Like when I first got into real estate, dude, I didn't understand what a balanced market looked like. I was just seeing the frenzy of it all.
What year did you get licensed?
I got licensed in 2021, right after I graduated high school.
2021.
So, like I was saying, there's just endless frenzy of offers coming in and, 50, 60, 70,000 above asking. That type of fast moving pace real estate market is just not sustainable. And I think you hit a point where prices continue to rise. And you're not having really anything that's stopping it because there's demand coming in, right? And low inventory supply. So I think it's a way of the market saying that what we have came to in the real estate market is too much for what it can handle.
Well, COVID really exacerbated the issue. Florida was on an upswing in 2019, pre-COVID. We were doing really good. We were doing good because prices were escalating at a reasonable level. Mm-hmm. The market wasn't in a frenzy, but it was certainly, multiple offers on homes and stuff like that. Things were going good. At the same time, costs were low. The difference was costs were low.
Right.
Insurance was half the cost it is today. Debt was half the cost it is today. Prices were a little lower.
Right.
So you had a good market for everyone. And then you had COVID. And a lot of these states around the country took shits, and Florida didn't. Florida remained open. Whether or not if that was the right call, what you think about that politically, that's what happened. And that's why a lot of people moved here. People moved their homes, their livelihood, their businesses here. And because of that, you had an increased demand. And then, they bought up all the homes, right? And now we have low inventory. We have a high price level and all these exacerbated costs. I think you're right. I think it's at this point of reach.
Right.
And
that could be looked at from the federal government.
But here's the problem, though, Tyler. There's an election year coming up. We saw what happened in 2020, just with some of the craziness and how a lot of the other policies of different states actually pushed people to Florida. Same thing could happen again. There's no reason why there's some other issue that comes up that puts the needle into San Francisco, into LA, into New York, and those places get worse. A lot of those people, or the ones that haven't yet, are going to move here.
Yeah.
Like we could even go crazier than we are now. And I don't think people are thinking about that yet because Santa Claus is coming to town next week.
Yeah.
When's Christmas? What's today? The 18th? And if in less than a week, in a week or so, right? So people aren't thinking about this right now. But when Santa Claus drops off his gifts and when the ball drops in New York and we're in a new year, hello, election year,
Picks back
right?
up.
We're in an election year.
Right.
And everyone
That's-
needs to remember how crazy things got last election in 2020. Why wouldn't it be just as crazy moving forward? If that's the case and you have another influx, another mass migration into Florida, we could see what we saw in 21 and 22 on steroids because you have this crazy increase in demand, but debt is still high and all these other expenses we've just talked about are still high. Like you might get to a point where a decent house pops on the market and there's just this flood of the hedge funds buying, the New Yorker moving here, the California family that's moving here, like all these buyers at a table for one property.
It's a great point. I think if let's say Jerome Powell decided to lower the rates tomorrow down to 6%, what's going to happen to our market locally?
Yeah.
It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up easily.
A lot of people believe that.
I am a strong believer in that as well. I just think that a lot of people are holding off because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to make the move when, at least for right now with where we're at, I don't think it necessarily, I mean, obviously if you have a 4% interest rate on your home and you don't want to sell and move into an 8%, that's completely understandable.
Well,
we're at
there's
now,
that.
7, right?
There's that, right? Like I think a lot of people that have bought over the last few years have locked in the high 2, 3, 4, 5, et cetera. So I don't know that inventory would increase high enough to ease demand. I'm getting a phone call. I don't know if we're still live.
Must be paused.
Spam.
Oh, no.
Hey, people. Hey, people. I think everyone can see us here. Sorry, I got a phone call. One of those damn solicitors. Let's talk about that. What the fuck is going on with that, man? I feel like I get 100 calls a day. Do you need leads in your area? If you're a realtor, you know what I'm talking about.
100%.
You get those?
They need to have some type of regulation on that. The do not call list doesn't work, man.
The thing with America, bro, is we don't do the whole regulation thing until people get hurt, until people are affected.
So something dramatic happens.
Right, something dramatic has to happen. Let me zoom back out on the live here. I think I screwed up.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Let me zoom out. Ultra wide angle.
You guys are going to be seriously shocked when you see what the next live has in store. We tried to get it running today, thought we had it all planned out, everything was smooth, and to the last minute. Something always has to come up last minute.
Yeah, that was our bad.
Anyway,
the market's shifting. It has shifted, and I think everyone is distracted by the holidays. It could go either way. You could have an interest rate, decrease. I think the problem, though, Tyler, with believing that an interest rate reduction will automatically lead to a frenzy is the inventory issue. Like we still have low inventory,
right?
So there might be like more buyers that say, okay, like I'm willing to entertain buying a home. What home? I don't know that you're going to necessarily have an influx of inventory. You usually do have an influx of inventory in the new year because people wait. Like if you want to list your home right now, like why? Christmas is next week, New Year's, like you might as well wait till the new year to list your property. That's typically the way we do it. Especially in markets like Sarasota, like more seasonal markets where there's a lot more people that come after the holidays and come enjoy our warm weather. So I don't know. It could go either way. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that next year is going to be insane. It's an election year and anything is on the table. A lot of people have been saying for the last like year and a half, ever since rates skyrocketed, to be in a position to be prepared. Like get your credit in check, maybe pay off some debt. Don't go into debt. Don't buy any purchases. Save your cash. That's what I've done. I've built up this like war chest, right? Where when a good deal does come up, I'm ready to pull the trigger on it. So save your commission money, maybe talk to a lender and kind of, you don't need to pull a credit check, but like have the conversation.
Line it up.
Yeah. Like, hey, I want to buy a home next year, or I'm thinking about buying a home. What is that going to take? You know, what could I really afford?
Right.
What do I need for a down payment? What do I need for a credit score? What is it actually going to look like to own a home? You got to think about that too. You know, there was a time where really the only thing that you kind of had to think about was a down payment. And the rest of the affordability in kind of a way worked itself out.
Right.
But now, you know, you could buy a home that has a that's $500,000 or $600,000, which is literally like a starter home, right? You and I know that here in Tampa, and it could have a $10,000, $15,000, $12,000 tax bill, a $7,500 flood insurance bill, yard maintenance, keep the place clean, how's the roof, how old's the hot water heater. You start adding this shit up, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I say what I'm doing is you just be prepared. Be prepared to pull the trigger.
I think what we're going back to in a lot of ways too, I mean, this is why FHA was even introduced, is just to help it become more affordable for people.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people do for FHA buyers is, what a lot of sellers do in effect, is pay for their closing costs, help them out in that way. I think we're going back to those times where sellers need to help out the buyer who's got an FHA, he's ready to purchase, he's approved, and it just needs a little help with the closing costs. I think that's just a normal thing. I think, you know, back whenever it was first introduced, I don't think it was, I think that was a common thing, you know?
Yeah.
And we kind of got out of those days.
Well, debt is extremely important because without it, no one would be able to afford a home, right? I mean, if a starter home is $500,000, like, who has that kind of cash lying around? And if you did have that kind of cash, you wouldn't use it to just dump into a home.
Right.
You know, you'd want to spread that out with debt. So debt's just really important. And the federal government keeps trying to figure out ways, and the banks keep trying to figure out ways to essentially give access to more people, right? Like, you know, this new program we talked about last week with Fannie Mae, or is it Freddie Mac? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, one of those. I always get those two mixed up.
Me too.
But they have a new program where you can put 5% down on a 4-unit multifamily. I mean, that's a great
Huge
incentive.
Yeah.
You know, we also talked last week about 40-year and 50-year mortgages.
Right.
These are just other programs that make it more affordable for people to buy homes.
Why was it never 5%? I mean, they had that option for single family homes. You have the 2.5 or 3.5, whatever it is. How come they never had that for a multifamily, 4 units, 3 units?
Well, because the bank sees it as a little bit more of a risk, because there's a new, almost like a business component of management, right? If you're just buying a single family home that's owner occupied,
right.
the bank understands, hey, like, you're
Right.
responsible for that house.
Yeah.
But if it's a 4-unit, now you're
Someone else is responsible because
it's you, right? Like we're the bank and we're giving you this loan on a 4-unit. Well, we know you're going to be owner occupying one. We're trusting that you can correctly and efficiently manage the other 3 units.
Right.
So because of that, it's more risky, and because it's more risky, we're going to ask you to put more skin in the game, more money down.
Right. So now they're kind of getting a little bit more riskier by allowing that 5% down.
I think I think they're getting more riskier just on the face of it, but I also think that they're being pushed to do so. Like, if they don't do that, like, how is property going to trade? Like, if rates and everything stayed the same, a 30-year mortgage was standard, if that just stayed the same, you really would have this inverse in price level where only the rich would be able to afford
right.
real estate.
So they're just trying to make little shock waves in the market.
They're trying to kind of do what they always do at the federal level, which is just flood money into parts of the system that aren't necessarily able to have the capital to do anything.
That makes sense.
You know, that's like what they've done with opportunity zones, right? An opportunity zone, you get those tax advantages if you buy property in a certain area.
Yeah.
It's just an incentive the government provides to people to hopefully help them buy homes.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I think it's good. I mean, we kind of talked last week about how, you know, what if debt didn't exist? You know, would a Jeep Grand Cherokee cost $60,000? No. You know, because who the hell would you sell it to?
Yeah, that's very...
Isn't
mind-boggling,
yeah,
dude.
it's kind of a mind
Well,
screw.
I feel like it started with college.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
the big one.
That's the biggest one, dude. And it's just it's a business system that has fucking exploded, dude.
People talk about the military industrial complex or the political, like, complex for like lobbyists and stuff like that, right? Money influences certain things in
Yeah.
America. And then now this big thing is the college tuition. Like some colleges are $50,000 a
Huge, dude.
year. You think they'd be 50 grand a year if they weren't handing out scholarships
Oh my
or a
God.
guaranteed student loan?
Yeah.
No, because kids wouldn't afford it. And if a lot of people can't afford it, the price level would have to drop.
Right.
So it's like,
Dude, thank God for the Florida Lotto.
yeah, for real. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much that rakes in
That's
a year.
funding the hell out of scholarships, scholarships.
If you look at endowment of certain universities, it's in the billions. Like some of these schools have billions of dollars.
Why, dude? It's a game, dude. It's just a game of let's hand out a bunch of money
But that's
so that they
everything,
can
man.
get back into it.
That's America. You know, it's like look at our military, man. Like
This is
look
America.
Look at everything. I think they just passed a military budget that was almost $1 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think this country just has a debt issue, a spending issue.
Right.
But I also believe that I don't know if there's a way to get out of that. Like, what do you like? It is what it is. Like, people need to buy homes. So if people need to buy homes, we need to make it affordable. How do we make it affordable? Attractive interest rates, attractive loan programs. Like,
I think
we
you
have
can
to do
only
that.
you can only amend it. It's not like you can go back and change the whole system. I think you can only amend it and make small little changes. Just like, the conversation about the about institutions buying up single family homes.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation. You can't go in and change the education system, but you can go in
No.
and put regulations. You can change the ways that the system operates. You're not going to change the entire thing
No, you're not.
because
But I
it's
think
proven to work.
the student loans is such a good example because I think in the beginning the idea was, look, school costs money, higher education costs money. There's a lot of bright kids out there in underprivileged neighborhoods that don't have the opportunity to go to school only because they can't afford it.
Right.
They have the right grades, they did everything correctly, they worked hard, but hey, I can't afford to go to school. Well, what does the federal government do? Well, then they try to give you a guaranteed loan. Hey, we'll give you the money to go to school, pay it off over time. Fantastic. I mean, that's a great thing that our country did.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it turned into this like weird system where now you have the schools handing out scholarships, handing out money because now they can charge whatever they want. Like the same thing happened in healthcare with health insurance.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah.
Like my wife and I didn't get insurance when we had our baby. It was going to cost us more money. Just why it worked out like this, I don't know. But it was literally going to cost more money to get insurance, pay insurance for like 4 months, and then split the copay of the birth and all the drugs and everything that she had to get. So it was cheaper just to pay cash. And when I called the company that gave my wife an epidural, which is the drug you get in your back to
Right.
help the pain of labor, they were like, "Oh, you're paying cash? Yeah, it's like a 50% discount if you pay cash."
Whoa.
They charge the insurance companies double.
That's wild. Well, of course, dude. Like
Of
that's what
course.
everyone wants a little
guaranteed
piece
money.
of that, right? Everybody wants a piece of it.
And I think the same thing has infected the real estate system in this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's happening now is the government is trying to create programs to give more debt to people to afford more real estate. And I believe what will happen over the next few years is just because of the amount of money flooding into the system and the availability of debt to be borrowed, prices are going to go insane. I just think by the end of my life, dude, I think houses on Bayshore are going to be 60, 80 million. I think a starter home is going to be $1.5 million. Look at Los Angeles. There's other markets around the country that already have those numbers.
Yeah.
Like this isn't La La Land. Like we don't need to imagine this. Like you can identify markets around the country where this has already happened. They've had a high level of growth for decades. You have a massive amount of cash pouring into one place, and a starter home is like $2.5 million, or was in LA.
I don't think people understand too how just money and inflation works in general. Like if you look back 20 years from now or 20 years ago and you see, prices of, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 for a home, that's never going to happen again, ever. That's never going to happen unless just all values drop. It's just never going to happen. It doesn't.
No.
It's impossible.
I don't
Everything is going to
think prices
cost.
are going to drop.
Look at wages. The wages are
They're
constantly
not
go
dropping
up.
now.
Prices constantly go up. It's just how the world works.
Dude, if they were going to drop, they would have dropped.
Right.
The Federal Reserve's goal was to have a soft landing to our economy. There was a bunch of money pumped up in the system. COVID happened. We needed that money to float the boat. Probably a little too much was printed. Didn't they print? I saw some statistic, and you could pull this up, but I think out of every dollar ever printed, 33% of them were printed in the last like 3 years.
That's
Like
insane.
the amount of money the federal
I
government has flooded into
I
our
read
economy.
that it was a lot.
And now they're having to do the interest rate hikes to try to cool everything down, which has worked. Everything is cool. The problem is prices haven't really dropped.
Yeah.
The frenzy's not there. Someone says, should I buy now or wait? I mean, it depends on your situation. I think there's really two types of buyers. The first type of buyer is the person that has an event in their life where they have to move, and it is what it is. Just buy the right house. Don't buy on a shitty street. Don't buy something just to buy it. Buy a good location, buy a good neighborhood. Buy something where you're not going to regret it in a year because you might be stuck there for a while. You know, I think buy versus wait is a tricky thing. There's a few types of buyers. Someone's going to either buy out of necessity. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe they got a new job. They're going to move. Cameron says buy now. I somewhat agree with that. I think it's very property specific. If you have the money and you have the credit and you've spoken to a lender and you've looked at the numbers, remember what Tyler and I are talking about too with affordability, right? Don't get caught. Don't think, oh, I can afford the down payment. I can afford the house. There's a lot of other costs that have literally gone up 100+% in the few years. So don't just look at the down payment. What is it going to cost you a month for your flood insurance premium? What is it going to cost you to maintain the property? Are you buying a house that needs fixing up? Does it have a new roof? I think there's just a little bit more due diligence that needs to be done in order for you to make a buying decision right now. So I would say get with the right person. Contact Cameron. Cameron's on there. Cameron's an agent. Get with a good real estate agent. Look, everyone knows realtors, right? Find one that you like, find one who's knowledgeable, get with them and let them help you make a buying decision because due diligence is more important than ever on buying a house.
It's not a one size fits all type of answer.
Yeah.
It's a very personal answer, and it depends on what your goals are and what type of financial position you are in.
There is the question though where it's like, hey, should I buy now because, rates are going to dip a little bit? I mean, I don't think a half a point is going to float the boat or sway a decision one way or the other.
Right.
Like if you can't afford it at 6.5, then if it goes to 6, you probably still don't have any business buying. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all about your current situation. Alicia says, have you read The Creature from Jackal Island? Talks all about money system. I have not, and I feel like it would creep me out because a lot of the shit we're talking about here a few years ago was cuckoo. Right? Like, it's all these weird, like back level YouTube documentaries and shit would talk about this, but now it's so in front of our face. The hedge fund buying homes alone, like the fact that wasn't immediately stopped by the federal government and looked into, the fact that they've been doing it for decades is creepy.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, what politicians are invested in these companies that don't want to make it illegal? We know that shit goes down. The Creature from Jekyll Island. This is a classic expose of the Fed. Yeah, the Fed, man. This is who we're talking about. Become one of the best-selling books in its category of all time. Where does money come from? Where does it go? Who makes it? Yeah, I got to order that. Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah,
that's
thank
cool.
you.
I mean, yeah,
cool.
dude. This is. And what year was it written? 94. This is nothing new. This is nothing new, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I just think the world changed after COVID, man. COVID just. It ripped this Band-Aid off that I think everyone knew was coming, but it accelerated everything. Like what should have happened in maybe 5 or 10 years in our Tampa real estate market, maybe around the country too. But what should have happened in only a few years happened in like fucking 6 months.
Right.
Like that's literally what happened.
Exactly.
And now we're sitting in a place where people are asking, should I buy? Should I wait? What should I do?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to fathom and kind of go back into, like I was talking about, as a new real estate agent and seeing this frenzy.
God damn it.
Oh no. Are we paused again?
No, we're good.
We're good? You're gonna have to go on Do Not Disturb, bro.
Yeah, how do I do
Do not disturb, not airplane mode. That would be not good.
All right, we went on Do Not Disturb people.
There we go.
Sorry.
We are not disturbed now.
Okay, yeah, that should not happen again.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I think a
Yeah.
lot of people kind of have to adapt back into reality because and realize what was happening was just it was not a normal thing. It was happening way too quickly, and now people are questioning like, should I buy now? Like, is this the best time? Like it's always the same question, like, should I buy now?
Mm-hmm.
But the answer is always going to be you should figure out like with a professional and talk through your situation and see where the market is, and then make the best educated decision that you can make for yourself personally.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a lot of it comes down to property. I think the most important thing right now is the actual house. So I wouldn't pay it. I mean, obviously the first step is affording it. You got to look at the numbers. Can you afford the house? Can you afford the cost associated with home ownership, flood insurance and taxes, all of that, right? Once you establish the answer to that is yes, really the only thing you need to worry about is the actual property. What are you buying? Whether it's a 6.5% or 7% interest rate, don't worry so much about that. Worry about
Right.
What are you buying? Are you just like, oh, I want to buy a house, and you buy this shithole on the worst street, on a busy street corner that no one's ever going to buy, even if the market is good, and you're going to get yourself in a trap?
Exactly. There's
You better be damn sure that the house you buy is a good house. And guess what, man? Like there have been a lot of buyers that have pulled out of the market right now. If you are in a position to buy, it's not a bad thing to do.
right.
It's not a bad time to buy.
No.
It's always a bad time to buy a bad house on a bad street in a bad
Exactly.
neighborhood.
Exactly.
And what do I mean by that? I just mean, you take a look.
Yeah.
Take a look around. Go drive the neighborhood. Do you like it? No, I hate it. It's disgusting. Okay. That's
Does
what I'm
it fit
talking
your
about.
goals?
Don't buy that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, do people maintain their property? Do people respect their neighbors? Is there, it's a feeling, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is inherent to me, but I have to go see the property and walk through the property and look at the neighborhood, and maybe I'll drive by at 7 p.m. after the sun sets and just take a look. Just look at it, dude. Like take a look at the property, feel it out, feel the vibe. I have a good wand when it comes to that stuff. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important than ever.
I agree.
Don't buy just to buy. Buy because it's a good asset.
Yep. Absolutely.
Probably plan on being there a while too. There's quite a bit of uncertainty in the market. We're going into an election year. Who knows what's going to happen? But also internationally,
Yeah.
there's some pretty wild international conflict that was not on the table 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And if something pops off in the Middle East or in Ukraine, you don't want to get caught in a bad situation. I don't know what that could mean, but I just know that there's a lot of stuff going on that wasn't going on when the market was just fine and dandy.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is it depends on you, and it's okay either way.
I think you should just make a decision based off of just put your basket on the table, take a look at everything, and if it's a better decision to buy because you need to get in something, go ahead and buy.
Yeah.
Like just go ahead and make that decision. Otherwise, you're gonna be just gonna be sitting back on your money.
Yeah.
Either way, if you have money in the savings account, it's gonna get eaten away by inflation. That's just
That's
a
another thing.
rule.
Well, there's really two questions about a good time to buy. If you're an investor, that's a really tricky question, because if you're going to try to buy an apartment, a small apartment, we'll use small numbers like a 6-unit, 8-unit, 12-unit, or even a rental property. You want to buy a little house and turn it into an Airbnb. Now it's more important than ever to try to figure out those numbers.
right.
You're not going to be, a lot of deals don't make sense now because with interest rates and the debt market and all these prices, you're not putting 20% down.
No.
Like you're going to be putting, like the deal that we had under contract, the office deal. I was super stoked about this property. It was like a 3rd acre on an insanely prominent street corner. Beautiful, amazing. It would have been a great spot for the office. The problem was the building was crappy. but really more importantly was the debt piece that they wanted like 40% down. There's a lot of institutions, a lot of investors that service debt, that buy notes, or people that are hard money lenders and go in on deals like, dude, you're not going to get a 20 or 30% down payment on that type of structure.
Good luck.
You know, they're going to ask for 40% down. The good news is a lot of buyers are off the table. And if a good property pops up and you got cash or you do have 40%, you're going to be one of the only buyers on the field. And if you're one of the only buyers on the field and a great property pops up, boom, you know, you're going to make some hits.
And you can get below asking.
Yeah.
Because they're not receiving anything. There's so much into that question, should I buy now or hold off? There's just so many. There's so much.
I agree.
Because if there's,
are you
everybody
investor?
is asking that
are
question.
You a homeowner?
Exactly.
Are you getting divorced? And
Yeah.
like, hey, should I sell the house? Well, dude, yeah. Like, get out of the situation. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're right though. There's so many follow-up questions. There's really no one blanket answer.
Yeah.
I think if you're an investor, it's an incredible time to buy and a retail buyer. If I'm just trying to buy a home, like if a great home popped up, I would say to the seller, who else is buying this?
Yeah.
You're going to have presents under the tree in a week. You got New Year's. The market sucks. Like, who else is buying this? So maybe you could come in with a lower offer.
Yep.
Tony says, we're coming from California, New York, Chicago. We got cash.
It's a good time to buy.
It's a fact. It's a fact, bro. A lot of these people coming from different places around the country have cash because they're getting a discount just by moving here. The same home that costs $500,000 here is $750 wherever they're coming from. So they already beat you because whatever they're buying is cheaper than what they're used to.
And
they already feel like they're getting a discount.
Yeah. Saving in taxes tenfold.
It all goes back to the people who were upset in the comments who have lived here for their entire lives. And me included, dude, I was born on Davis Island.
Yeah.
Like I was born here in Florida, you know? So, and you were too, man.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it sucks for us, man. We're competing with hedge funds. We're competing with people from out of state. We're competing with older retirees that move here. That's always been happening, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much competition for a native Floridian.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
You know?
I agree. I think you just have to adapt. I mean, Tampa's never going to be what it was 20 years ago. You can't just dwell in the past about that. Yeah,
it's a hard pill to swallow, though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And the reason it's a hard pill to swallow is because, like I said, COVID accelerated time.
Yeah.
It's not a hard pill to swallow if you wake up 20 years later and you're 45 years old. Well, I wish I bought property when I was 25. Well, dude, yeah, you missed the boat. But this is no one's fault.
Yeah.
This is a virus comes in, the whole world goes crazy, money gets pumped into the system, inflation skyrockets, debt market increases, the Fed tries to cool everything down, and native Floridians, hardworking people that just want to buy a home get caught in the middle of all of it. And that's the real shame. That's the real problem.
Great point.
Is the people that are mad about this are not like maybe the investor, right? It's the people that just have fucking lived in Florida their whole life and they just want to buy a home and they've saved up 20% down and all of a sudden the world goes crazy and everyone from California and New York moves in and now you got hedge funds buying homes.
Right.
Of course they're upset.
100%.
You know, I'm upset too. I'm looking for a home.
Yeah. The reason I say you kind of have to understand and adapt to that new reality is because, let me ask you the question. Do you see Californians, New Yorkers, all these people that are immigrating here from other northern states, do you see that stopping?
No, I really don't.
If you ask anybody that, what do you think their answer is going to be?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a reality over the next decade, let's just say 10 years, that people from those markets stop moving here.
Right. And that's my point of saying, like, you kind of have to adapt to it. Maybe like you said, it's a hard pill to swallow. Like maybe that's one of the, like, it's just unaffordable to live here anymore. And you have to make a decision now to move out of the city that you love and you want to, there's options, right? You can, I mean, it sucks because now some people are in the position where they're having to rent. They're having to rent because they can't afford owning a house, the cost of ownership here in Tampa.
Yeah.
So
that's a good question though. The question is like what do you do about it?
Yeah.
Right. The question's like, how does a young person dig their way out of this?
Yeah.
I think patience, man. I think save your money. Don't buy stupid shit. Get your girlfriend a little something nice for Christmas. Take care of your parents, and spend some time with family, but you don't need the crazy car. You don't need the watch. You don't need some of the things that you think you need. I think if you're a young person and you really want to get in the game, you better understand that life is not as easy as it used to be.
Mm-mm.
I was born in 1992. I'm only 31.
Yeah.
Like, I'm young.
Right.
But it's a lot different when I started. When I started, I bought those first 2 condos in Sarasota, those rental properties. Those were $59,000 a piece. $59,000 a piece. They rented for $895. Remember the 1% rule? Like, if you have a $100,000 property, it's supposed to rent for $1,000.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore.
No, dude.
Where are you going to go get a rental property for $59,000 near downtown Sarasota?
Dude.
The first apartment, the first condo I bought that I lived in and renovated and used the 2-year capital gain exclusion and started that whole thing. I think I was like 25 years old, like 6 years ago. I paid $125,000 for that condo. The property tax bill was like $3,500 a month.
That 1% rule
Doesn't exist anymore,
No,
bro.
I learned that 1% rule about 2 years ago, and ever since then, looking on the market for deals, I have not seen a deal that makes sense with the 1% rule. Like,
Exactly.
learned it from Bigger Pockets and try to apply it into my life, and that's just where we're at.
Even 2018, fast forward a couple years, the second house I ever bought and flipped. If you're in Tampa, you may have driven past it a bunch of times. It's on the corner of Church and Azeel. It's the white and black house. It has a beautiful podocarpus hedge in the front that I spent all damn day planting myself. I had to save money.
Mm-hmm.
You try to do what you got to do. But I paid $359,000 for that house. $359,000. 1,600 square feet, built in the 1980s, block construction, volume ceilings, gorgeous. 3902 West Azeel Street, if you want to look it up. If people are listening and want to look it up. Gorgeous remodel. I paid $359,000 for that house. That deal does not exist today, and it will never exist in the future. So Tyler brings up a good point. What the hell do you do about it? I think you got to be prepared. I think you got to make money. I think you got to save money, and I think you got to get in the game because prices are not going back to what they were. I'm only 31, and I'm talking like I'm 75 fucking years old about the market used to be this and that.
Back
this is
in my
all in
day.
the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's
I got my
wild.
real estate license in 2014. Next year will only be 10 years in my career. That's it.
Whoa. So when'd you buy this one?
So look at the Redfin estimate, 814. I paid 359. I sold it for 575. Probably should have kept it and rented it out.
How long ago was this?
I sold it 2020 and bought it in 2018.
What?
Go through the pictures though. I made it gorgeous. The point is though, like, to do this same deal, to buy this house, you might have to pay $600,000 to buy it. Then you're putting money into it, and then you might sell it for $850, $950, whatever your sale price may be. But people just need to understand that we're not going back to where we were. I think when people say, "Is it a good time to buy?" I think what they really mean is, "Am I buying too early? Are we going to go back to where we were a few years ago?" I do not. I think 0% chance. We're not going to go back to where we were a few years ago. We're not going to go back to those prices.
No.
You're not going to buy a house for $350,000. There's too many buyers here that weren't here 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I started working in Sarasota as an assistant to my mom after I graduated college in 2015. I was licensed my junior year of college in 2014. And a little bit before that, I've been riding around with my mom my entire life. My mom has a funny story about me when I was a little kid in the back seat. We drove by a house and I point out the window and I go, "Mommy, that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath." Like, I've been in real estate my whole life and I've seen a lot of different changes. But there's just no opportunity. We're not going to go back to those prices. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just back then, man, the buyers that would come down were, your Midwestern couple that was retiring or someone moving to Tampa for a job, right? There's kind of the standard buyer pool. The first time I ever saw a California buyer was in 2020 after the Floyd riots. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on the West Coast. And this couple from Beverly Hills didn't feel safe, man. This guy moved his family from Beverly Hills. He bought a beach house, one of our listings on Casey Key. You could probably pull it up. I forgot the address, but it's on South Casey Key. Do you know where that is? Casey Key's the barrier island south of Siesta Key in Sarasota County. This guy paid like $6 million cash for, probably worth 10 or 12 now, but he paid $6 million cash. He was literally like a refugee from Beverly Hills. This guy said, I don't feel safe when my family, when my wife goes out, we don't feel safe in our neighborhood. This guy's talking about Beverly Hills. That buyer didn't exist in the buyer pool in Florida when I was growing up, let alone when I started my professional career 9 years ago. Now you have other buyers that weren't on the table. That's the difference.
Absolutely.
So when people say, do I wait or do I wait do I wait to buy or should, I wait and see if prices come down? Dude, we're not going back to where we were. You have different people at the table with real money.
Yeah.
A lot more money than Floridians do.
Yeah. So
stay vigilant and save your dough. That's what I say. That's what I've been telling you, man.
yeah.
Like I've been telling you, dude, save your money. Like you get a big commission check, do not spend it. Save your money. Keep watching the market, keep underwriting deals. When something good comes up, you'll know it because you've done that homework, and then you'll be able to make a decision.
Yeah.
But to rush and to buy a property that doesn't make sense, or at least like you halfway like it, I can paint that, or the neighbor's a little iffy, but I'll put up a hedge. Don't make excuses right now for property.
Yeah.
Just wait and buy premium real estate.
That's the important piece, right?
Yeah.
Not just because it looks pretty, but premium real estate. It's a premium property. Because when you go in to buy it, you're not always going to get the all the amenities that come with it. You're not going to get the new roof. You're not going to get the new AC. You're not going to you get the new electric. You're going to get you're going to have to do your due diligence and make sure you have a property that you're not going to go into it spending $20,000-$30,000 straight off the bat. You have to make sure it's the right one.
Yeah, you need to take a look at the number one rule in real estate, which everyone knows is location, 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 right? You need to be buying in a good area that's going to appreciate. If you think that, this is a good deal, well, the neighborhood's a little, I don't know, but I really like the house, don't buy it. Mm-hmm. If you're conscious, I mean, if you can actually stomach it and you like it and you think it's a good decision and you want to do it, yeah, of course, go for it. But a lot of people are scared to make a buying decision right now because they feel like if they buy, prices will crash and then they've overpaid. You'll never do that if you buy in a good location.
Absolutely.
If you buy in a great location and you get a decent house, maybe you can renovate it and improve it over time. That's how you get started.
Yeah.
That's what I would suggest for you. You're 21 years old. You can't do what I did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. It doesn't exist anymore. But what you can do is you can plan for the future. Kind of like what you're saying. Like you can save your dough, be vigilant, and make a good buying decision.
Right. Buying in that zone near downtown St. Pete, where it just got a zone change to multifamily, buying in an area like that, that'd be a great option.
That goes back to knowledge, though. That goes back to that.
Yeah.
Because you're in the game and you're looking this shit up. Does everyone know that? No. So that knowledge, hey, I know that they're going to put in this incredible mixed-use development right here on this street corner. If I look for a property near there, I'll pick up some of that appreciation.
Yeah.
I just think people have to work harder is the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's also important to, when you ask that question, is now the best time to buy, like going to actually talk to like a guy like Cameron, going to talk to Cameron or any type of other agent that you work with, and get their advice and their expertise, because there's gonna be things that you don't know about. You're not gonna know that in that area around St. Pete downtown just got a zoning change if you're not every day on the news. And
a good realtor would know that,
especially if you don't live in that area. You're not going to get that popped up in your feed.
Yeah.
So talking to a real estate agent that's like, hey, especially in that area that you want the expertise. If you want to look in Tampa, you need to find a Tampa-based lender or real estate agent.
Yeah, it's really important to work with an expert now more than ever.
Yeah, it's not just like the corny like, oh yeah, you work with your realtor. No, it's important to get real advice. Because me and you have that, walk into a property, you kind of have that feel. You already you're feeling, where to look with the right, concerning inspection and due diligence, you know what the things that you need to look for. Not everybody does that. Everybody does something else for a living. All of our clients do something else for a living.
Yeah, I think both parties need to keep that in mind. Like, I think the realtor needs to understand, like, hey, dude, not everyone's a realtor. There's a lot of realtors out there, but not everyone pays attention to the market like you do. So understand that you really are doing people a service when you work with them. And I think the public needs to understand that realtors work really hard to understand whatever market they work in. And when you work with a local realtor, you are getting a leg up.
Yeah.
Like, it really is a leg up,
Right.
Because that information that we're talking about, whether it's like hey, there's a new development being built right here. Hey, there's a zoning change that affects this property. I know it's a single family home, but you could build 4 units here. You could sell this to a developer, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever that information is, now it's important to work with a realtor more than ever. There's new news broke like 4 or 6 weeks ago, something like that. The NAR, the National Association of Realtors, a jury found that they were artificially inflating commissions. There's a $1 billion lawsuit. Not Florida Realtors, National Association of Realtors lost. They're going to appeal it. It'll go through that whole court process. It'll probably get ironed out in a few years. But this is going to be our industry, real estate, is changing so much. It's fucking bananas. And I feel bad for you because you got licensed in 21. So you saw the crazy market, the insane like faucet turning off. Now this lawsuit. The future is it's like a dim light. You know, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's
and I own a
foggy
brokerage,
as
so
hell.
I'm trying to figure it all out myself and plan for the future. Short answer for us and my company, and what I've told everyone, is business as usual. We're providing a high level of service to our customers. We're not going to be offering another buyer's agent a 0% commission. We're still offering our regular 2.5 to 3 full commission to buyer's agents. Business as usual. The problem is the National Association of Realtors and several other large brokerages that were also named in the lawsuit were found of essentially a conspiracy, a price fixing scheme. And how that works itself out remains to be seen, but I have a feeling it might not be good for the industry as a whole, as far as like optics. Like, it's not going to look good. The good news is I think we're going to start to see buyer's agreements, which other states do have. I know New York has that. I believe Florida needs one, man. I think when you work with an agent, it should almost be like an attorney. You put pen to paper, you make a signed agreement with that buyer's agent realtor. They owe you a fiduciary duty. Let's take this thing fucking seriously. Florida Realtors for a long time has run the transaction broker model, where an agent, now dual agency is illegal in Florida, but a transaction broker can actually represents a light word, but work with both sides and facilitate a transaction. I think this lawsuit's going to change that. I think what this lawsuit is going to do is really, really put eyes on the commission structure.
Right.
And it's going to force local realtor associations to make buyers sign agreements with their realtors. I'm not saying a buyer would have to pay the commission. I'm just saying there's probably going to be like a document that's standard moving forward that makes a buyer, hey, you're my realtor. Like, any property that I buy, you get paid a commission.
Right.
You know, the realtor owes you trust, blah, 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 blah.
I think you're going to see more single agent brokerage relationships.
Correct. I believe so too.
That makes more sense, where you have a upfront buyer agreement that you're signing with the buyer, and I think that would be in place just to protect the real estate agent and the owner.
Let me hop in the chat. I totally agree.
And
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Questions in the chat. Yep. Let's see what we got. So someone says, what about developments with big construction projects? That's a great question. What's going to happen with all these huge construction projects? Is price appreciation reflected in the current market? I think there is a little bit of inflationary discussion in the market that looks to the future for a lot of these developments, and then that realtor or that seller wants that price now. You see that a lot in Ybor City. right? A property gets listed at some crazy price in Ybor City, and then the realtor, the listing realtor puts like right next to the new gasworks development and blah, blah, blah. We don't know if that's going to get built. I mean, they're working on a couple buildings, but how far off is that? Years.
Right.
And I think in this type of a market, for a seller or a realtor to ask a buyer to pay a premium is a little silly.
Yeah.
I think that's a big piece of it. I think sellers are going to have to get a little bit real right now. The buyer pool is decreased. Interest rates are up. It's a little bit unaffordable as a buyer. You're going to have to get real if you're a real seller.
Yeah.
You're going to have to reduce your price to a price that accommodates a buyer.
Yep.
I had to do it. I sold my condo at a huge discount.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have waited. I could have probably taken it off and done more staging, but I got real, dude. The market changed.
Yeah.
The market changed. My condo charges over $1,000 a month. We had to do an engineering study because of the Surfside condo collapse. Now my condominium is required to do this expensive engineering study. It costs us $150,000. Like, dude, the condo market's changed. The market's changed. I'm a seller. Let me reduce my price. Let me get real. I didn't lose money. I probably broke even. But a lot of sellers are going to have to do that. A lot of people missed the boat.
Yep.
A lot of people probably should have sold a year and a half or a year ago, and they didn't, and they waited, and now they're trying to ask a premium. The premium ain't there.
No.
So I think that thank you for that question. I think there's a lot of developments out there that have a lot of buzz, a lot of news, a lot of excitement. And then there's other sellers in the area that try to capture that and sell at a premium. I don't know. Good luck.
I think now it's harder than ever. Like, especially when you had all the new plans coming out every other week,
Right.
and it's, buzz is hot. That's when you can really get, some price, improvements. But when you're in a time like now where there's more of that, now is there now the best time to sell? Is now the best time to buy? Like, do I make this move right now? That's when you're going to see, or is this project even going to be completed? Like, is this development even going to be completed?
Well, debt gets retraded, man.
Yeah.
So if you have a $500 million development and the developer is putting up $100 million, which is 20%. This is just like random example numbers, right? And the bank is coming up with $400 million. That bank right now, if they got a deal figured out 3 years ago, they're probably going to retrade on that debt. And they're going to go, look, we can't loan you the $400 million at whatever percent. We got to raise the rate. We got to do this. We got to figure it out. We got to do that. Some developments are going to die. Look at downtown, Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
That deal's dead, bro. That crane is just sitting there.
Yep.
Like a damn flamingo just hanging out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That crane hadn't moved in weeks, bro. It's because the deal's dead and they can't get the money to finish it. Whether or not that's going to happen to Gasworks or Water Street, I think that those projects are a little bit different because the ambition behind it and the money behind it and the backing is different. There's a little bit more juice to Gasworks and to Water Street, just in terms of who's behind the projects, their motivation, their vision.
Well, they're local.
They're local.
Like, think about when the Trump Tower was going up, and what was that, 2008?
Yeah, 7, 6,
7,
7.
yeah. And, Trump's not local. He's not bullish of the Tampa market.
He actually sued that. I think he sued that developer for $1 million or something after it went under for using his name.
Really?
Yeah. But, I think that properties, developments that a seller tries to capture appreciation on, that development might not go through.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly.
And then what?
Then what? I wouldn't be a buyer and bank on some development that might not get built.
Right.
You can do that, like you said, when it's hype.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago. All right, next question. Someone says, do you guys have any information when Water Street Phase 2 is starting? I think they've done a bunch of Phase 2 stuff. Nothing vertical, but they've done a lot of infrastructure. Can you pull up the Selman Expressway? So what they need to first step was to realign the street grid, which they've done. The second step was to remove the old flour mill, which has been completed. Then they've removed all the train tracks there that service that flour mill. There's so much work that has to be done before you build a building. And I think that's what they're doing, is they're doing infrastructure. So we know they are moving forward. I drive by there almost every day and you see work being done. It's not vertical, sexy work, but it's infrastructure work. So over here, Tyler, to your left, where are you, bro? Palmetto Beach. go west, Channel District, zoom in, Water Street. Give me a satellite. You can actually see the train tracks on the map here. So zoom in down this way. So the train tracks all north of here. Once this loads, it'll be a little more clear. All of those train tracks have been removed. This is new. This is within the last week or two. All those train tracks have been removed. They've removed the flour mill. They're leaving 2 of the flour grain silos because they're going to incorporate them in Water Street Phase 2, which will be pretty cool. Whether they paint murals on them or I don't know what they're going to do with them, but, they're trying to keep a little history in there or, whatever, as much as they can. But the next step is the actual Selman Expressway. So this long snake moving through downtown, that's the Selman Expressway. And what they're going to do is they're going to essentially reconstruct this exit right here. Do you see this exit kind of where yep. Circle that, Tyler. Right there. They're going to reconstruct this. And what they're going to do is they're going to have multiple lanes come out and swing around. I believe they're not doing an exit going straight anymore. Instead, they're going to have everyone go up Florida. It'll be able to hold way more traffic. If you've ever been to a Lightning game, you know that area gets super, super congested. And then what they're going to do instead is I believe they're going to have, what's the street? To the north of Caesar. They're going to have traffic coming off the expressway on a ramp on this street up here, which I believe is Whiting. And then Whiting actually will connect with a stoplight to the Channel District. So for a long time, you had, basically the Channel District was completely separated from downtown. You had Meridian Avenue and you had all these railroad tracks here. They're fixing the street grid. So phase 2 has already begun. Go to Whiting Street Selman Expressway on Google, and you should be able to pull up the plans. So as far as starting phase 2, they have started the infrastructure. I don't know when they're going to start vertical development. Obviously, it was in the news that Jeff Vennick exited SPP. SPP is the developer for Water Street. He claimed in the article that his motivation to do that was to spend more time with his family. So good for him. Phase 1 is almost done. Scroll all the way up. What'd you type in? No. Take out phase 2. And take out Whiting. WHIT. Whiting. Yeah, Whiting Street. Is there an H? Yeah. Let me see. And then type in, you didn't listen to me, you damn. Whiting Street, Selman Expressway.
Can we get a fact check that that's what you said? Whiting Street, Selman.
Because I want to see if we can pull up the plans for Whiting Street, because it is a game changer. Like, as sexy as Water Street and all these other developments are with the shops and the restaurants and the buildings and the apartment and that's all great. But to me, I find sexy realigning a street grid, creating walkable streets, efficient traffic flow. Okay. All that shit is just as important as any building. So you can see they've identified areas. Scroll down. Improvement, removal of exit ramp and reconstruction of exit ramp. Click so C and D. First of all, click D. That's it. No picture.
Nada.
What website is this? Selman Express. Come on. Oh wait, click D. Go back to that and click D. Maybe a picture will pop up. No, go back to Google.
Dude.
And then, I know this is a pain in the ass, PD and E study, Selman Studies. Lord of mercy. Scroll down. Okay, we're getting closer. Pictures. Project background, study area. Keep going. Go back and hit Google Images. I think I posted about it on TBD. Go to images. Well. Right there, section D improvements.
Where is it? Here?
Down one.
Down one? Oh, I see.
So this is going to be the new exit. The first exit in downtown Tampa is actually going to have 3 lanes, swooping around. They're going to get rid of. This is where, like, if you're going to a Lightning game and you're coming downtown and you come off, like, Emily Arena's right here where my hand is. So they're actually removing those exits and doing one big one. Where you'll get off is Whiting Street, which is also going to connect to the Channel District. So I feel like all this shit has to get done before they start building buildings. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So maybe that's a year out, 2 years out. I have no idea. We should get someone with SPP on the show, though. That would be a really interesting conversation about Water Street Phase 1, you know, the whole story behind it, man, how that came to be, and then finishing up here with Phase 2. All right, what else we got here? Cameron says lawsuit didn't make sense. NAR is looking to appeal. Yeah, it'll get ironed out in a few years. I don't think it made sense either. It's weird they're saying realtors conspired with sellers when on the listing agreement it usually says that, you know, how much commission will be paid to all the parties. Like, we have our rate and what my company charges, and then it also says what we're willing to share with a buyer's agent. So I don't know where, like, the collusion would come in. I agree. I don't think it made sense at all. Is there any oversight at a local level that can do a risk review of the financials of construction projects to prevent projects from being abandoned or unfinished? Project X. Yeah, it's a good question. My concern with something like that is at One Tampa. One Tampa is a really cool new project by Kettler. They've done a lot of other condominiums here in Tampa, and this one is really pretty. The problem is they tore down a beautiful old historic building to do that. Can you pull up First Watch building downtown? They tore down this gorgeous historic building to build this condominium, but the problem is they tore it down before they really put a shovel in the ground. And I think your question's important because what happens if they can't get the financing? What happens if the market turns and they can't build this new condominium, and now we're left with this shitty parking lot, and then we tore down this historic building for nothing? That's where the concern of mine comes in. Yeah, right here. They tore down this gorgeous building. This whole thing's been torn down. I mean, that was a gem, man. That was a downtown gem, and it got torn down for a new condo. You know, what happens if that condo, for whatever reason, whether it's the market, whether it's financing, whatever, construction issues, if they can't build it, now we've lost this building. Remember, we had on Tampa City Councilman Guido Maniscalco on the show, and I actually asked him, I was like, why doesn't the city try to figure out a way to stop that from happening?
Yeah.
You know, and his answer, you know, is politician. We all got to find people to work together and figure it out, essentially. But the question's a good start is, how do we get historic structures and historic areas preserved so that a developer doesn't come in, bulldoze it, and then they're like, oh, well, let's try to get the plans together and the construction financing. Like, I don't think they should have torn this down until they said, we got the debt, we got the construction budget, we have everything lined up, we're going to tear this thing down and immediately start building.
Yeah.
Like, now it's just a parking lot.
Right? Yeah.
Like, it's kind of screwed up. I don't know.
Maybe.
So another question we have, Jonathan, what are your thoughts on the Rays Stadium redevelopment with mixed-use urban village? Do you think the current funding structure of this development is a good area for the taxpayers? I think the idea is amazing. The idea is great, almost like a Wrigley Field. And I think the same thing, we're in Ybor City. That's where our studio is. I think the same thing should have been done here. Imagine a ballpark in Ybor City. You leave the ballpark and there's shops and there's restaurants, right? And it's like this urban ballpark village. That's what St. Pete's trying to do. I love the idea. The problem is two things. One, the price tag, and the other was the timeline. Remember, we had Frank on the show and we talked about that. Mm-hmm. Can you pull that up? I think it was the Tampa Bay Times put out the timeline for the construction of the new Rays Stadium. And it's like, you know, 2040, the project will be complete. 2040? Like, what?
Let's see.
Frank had a funny conspiracy. He was told by someone else where they were saying this is all a charade to piss the people in Tampa off, to rally up and force our government to pony up whatever tax money is needed to pull the Rays over here. There was also news about how the Rays were going to switch to the St. Pete Rays. I know the local government over there was talking about it. I don't know. There could be some merit to it. I think the mixed use urban village idea is incredible. I'd love to see it in Tampa instead of St. Pete. Go back up. Yeah, let's see the rendering. Zoom in on that. I mean, look at that thing. Look at that. That is amazing. You know, imagine the times you'd have in there, the restaurants and the people and the energy versus right now it's a parking lot.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing. You know, what it costs the city of St. Petersburg, they're going to have to increase taxes. They're going to have to figure it out. That's a lot of dough. See if this article has anything about the actual funding. Will open 2028, but that's just the stadium in 2028.
Yeah.
I think the entire project was going to take till the 2040s. So let's see. Oh, hold on.
Right
the
here.
Rays will pay more than half of the $1.3 billion ballpark and be responsible for cost overruns. Pinellas County and the city of St. Petersburg will combine to contribute half of that, so $600 million. In the 2019 mayoral election, the race here in Tampa, a lot of the kind of, I don't know, the thoughts of the candidates mostly were, we ain't paying a dime. Tampa is not paying a dime in taxes to get the Rays over here. If the Rays want to move the stadium, if the Rays want to be in Tampa, the owners and the team is going to have to pay for a new stadium. I thought that was a little short-sighted. Like, really, a dime? We can't contribute a dime? This is an insane project. It would be a game changer for Ybor City.
It'd be huge, dude.
And the fact that some of the politicians were saying we're not going to pay a dime to make it happen, why? Now, there is a limit. St. Pete and Pinellas County are going to spend $600 million. You know, I don't know how I feel about that. That's a hell of a lot of money for a taxpayer. I would pay my share.
Yeah.
I would pay my share because I believe that when it's all said and done, when the project is finished, this would be an asset for our community. I don't know if everyone feels that way. And I think the sentiment has actually shifted since 2019. I think in 2019, a lot of people didn't want to spend money for a new stadium. I think that now that we've been teased a little bit, they've dangled it in front of our face, and St. Pete said, ha ha, and gave us the finger. I think us Tampanians are a little bit more like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
Let's cut a deal here. So, I don't know. 8 million square feet, mixed-use development.
FOMO.
Over $1 billion. Yeah, we got FOMO, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. 600 million is a lot of tax money. I just want them to fix the damn potholes, though. My whole thing, like, you know, the city here comes up with a new project or a new program, or, you know, some of these politicians talk about this new whatever. It's like, fix the damn pothole, man. Why don't y'all fix the sidewalks, fix the roads? Let's go back to a level that we can all enjoy, and then let's add some new shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is there any, what would you say, what city in Florida has the best roads?
Well, the problem is we're old. Tampa's old, dude. Like, we have brick under our pavement, and then we got pavement on top of the pavement. And we were on this 75-year pay schedule for a long time where it was in the budget to replace or repave our roads for every 75 years. Now that's been increased to every 25 years. I just think it's an old city. You do see newer towns like Sarasota. You go down to Sarasota, way nicer roads. You go to Naples, way nicer roads. You know, even St. Pete. St. Pete has a little bit nicer roads. I think people don't understand that Tampa for a long time was, and still is in a lot of ways, just run down. I was driving on McDill. We do a little family thing at Palma Sia for Christmas. And, you know, Palma Sia Country Club is supposed to be like the nicest place in the city and all that. And I'm on McDill Avenue, which is the road that fronts Palma Sia. Shitty. Granted, the city's planned to fix it, and they're going to do a study, and then they're going to do this thing, and they're going to do that thing, and eventually they'll figure it out. But I'm driving along McDill, and I look to my left, and on the left, going south on McDill, is Parkland Estates, which is one of the nicest neighborhoods in Tampa. It's supposed to be a primo spot for residential. The roads are falling apart. You got asphalt cracked up everywhere, trees busting up the sidewalk, a woman, a young mother on her strollers having to carry the stroller. Do you know how much she probably pays a year in property taxes? And she's got to carry her stroller above a sidewalk. Some of these neighborhoods in underprivileged areas in Tampa don't even have sidewalks. And the kids are waiting for a bus in the grass, like getting bit by ants.
Yeah.
Like, I say we need sidewalks and get rid of the potholes. Like, we have a lot of catching up to do before we start spending money on a ballpark in Ybor City.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. I think that's the consensus of, the city councilman as well.
Yeah. How do you feel? You're young. You might start paying property taxes soon.
It'd be sick, dude. But, like, that's not... That's like asking the kid, what do you want for Christmas?
A lollipop or a screwdriver?
I want a ballpark in my backyard so I don't have to drive across that pond.
I don't know. I think
I would love that. That would be so incredible.
We just have a lot of catching up to do as a city, which is fine. I'm glad that Tampa has eventually, found its way, and we're big time. We had Brady in the Super Bowl. We had a couple champions. A lot of people, know who we are at this point, but we got a long way to go. The alleyway, the back of our old office, the alleyway. You remember that pothole?
Oh my God, yeah.
I don't even know if I would call that a pothole. That was a sinkhole.
4 feet deep, dude.
Dude, that was a sinkhole, bro. You run your tire through that, you're gonna bust your tire open.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I paid like $13,000 a year in property taxes. It's just a small little building.
Yeah.
What are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah, there's so much. There's so many of those.
I saw they're doing I don't know if they're going to replace it, but they ripped out all the workout equipment on Bayshore Boulevard. I don't know if they're going to replace that. But why don't you fix the damn pothole? How about that?
Yeah.
Especially in the neighborhoods that are paying some dough.
Right. First things first.
You'll find this out, Tyler, as you get older and you make more money and you pay taxes and your taxes increase and then you own a home and now you're paying property taxes. When you get to a point where you're paying into the system for a few years, you kind of start to pay attention of, about how the money's spent.
Yeah.
And when you see shit like that, they're going to spend $600 million of tax money on a ballpark, and you're pulling out of your driveway and you pay $25,000 a year in property taxes, and you're hitting a pothole and you're scratching. You start to get a little upset. Yeah. You start to get a little pissed off.
It makes sense.
Same reason why people are pissed off about the federal government handing out all the money they hand out. I'm not talking about like welfare. I mean, we do need safety nets for people and for people that don't have a chance and all that. But they start talking about giving money to Ukraine, and they start giving a little to this country and a little to that country, and you're working your ass off and cutting a check to the federal government for 25-30%. And I'm not saying I'm going to get a pitchfork and like hit the Capitol, but I'm definitely saying it ruffles your feathers a little bit.
It does.
And I think the same thing happens at a local level when you're hitting potholes. People get upset. Understandable.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. We're an hour and 30 minutes deep on the recording.
Are we?
We've
been going for quite a while, people. Thank you all to whoever joined, whoever asked questions. We appreciate it. Anything else? Anyone else want to ask a question real quick? We're about to hop off here. This was fun, though. I like going live. We're going to go live more often. And what we'll do, we will have guests on the live show. Because I know a little, I know this much, but there's people out there that know this much. And I want those people to get on the show because I know a little bit about a lot, but, we need people who are experts to talk about some of these issues. So we promise you guys we'll get some experts on the show soon. What else?
Comment below anybody you want to see on the show.
Yeah, give us feedback too. We appreciate it. We're blown away by the amount of attention the podcast has gotten. I mean, last time Tyler and I were in the studio was on Wednesday. Today's Monday. So, like half a week ago, we've gained 1,000 followers on Instagram in a week. We started this show in February. This show's less than a year old. We're going to hit I don't know, by the end of the year, maybe 16, 17,000 followers. It's crazy. The comments are unbelievable. I love reading all the comments, even the mean ones, because people get confused. And I think it's funny. Yeah. People are so passionate about something, and it's like, that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But you got to take the engagement for what it is, right? Keep commenting, keep sharing, keep liking, subscribe on YouTube. That's a big one. We post all this high quality, all these episodes on YouTube. Gina, what up? Gina, if you're in here still, comment. Subscribe, follow along. We love you guys. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate you being the producer. I don't know that we're going to do an episode next week. This might be it for the end of the year. That being said, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I love you
Christmas,
all.
everybody.
Happy New Year. If we decide to do another live, we will let you guys know. Otherwise, love you guys. Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like it. Check us out on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, give us a comment, give us some feedback. We want to know how we're doing. Thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.